Boys, this is the One Piece chapter 1155 breakdown video. Loki is still discriminating against these humans. He calls them puny humans. But Rox really wants to know where Harold is, so he asks Loki, but Loki does not want to answer him. But I feel like you can kind of see in this scene that Rox isn't really discriminating against him, and he just wants to know who he is because he later finds out that it's Loki, which is Harold's son, and he's like, "Oh, awesome!" And he asks him to call Harold back because he's on an expedition. Then we see a narrator box of Rox's swordsmanship. It apparently is like a giant hammer or cannon fire, and then we see a big panel, kind of reminiscent of when Imu and Gunko's body shot Dory or Broggy's arm off. And obviously Rox doesn't do that. But you see like a big impact of him hitting Loki and Loki kind of stumbling over. And then we get his laugh as well, which is not Zehahaha like Peach. I really do wonder how it's going to sound like in the anime, but Rox does not care. Obviously, before we have seen him stab Loki, then we continue on in another flashback, and it's when Harold and Rox first met, and it's at Pangea Castle, Marijoa. Apparently, Rox had kidnapped 5 kings, and Imu doesn't really seem to care. Now, Rox does appear at Imu's flower chamber. Interestingly as well, the sword that Rox has does kind of look like this sword as well. And I said this in my live reaction, link in the description. It kind of reminded me of Toji. I don't know why, from JJK, but I just get reminded of him. But yeah, we then get an awesome panel of him sitting there with a gun and saying he'll be back. But we also see someone who looks a lot like Gunko, and we know Gunko is very old because of her being a child with Brook. So she has lived a very long time, so this is probably Gunko. I talked about Gunko and Brook's history in another video. We then get Imu looking at Rox and a narrator box saying that he is a Davy Jonesian pirate. Now, Davy Jones is a real thing in the One Piece world. We've seen it countless times. But we then later see Rox doing a Davy backfire. But Rox says to Imu face to face that he will be back one day. And this, he obviously does not get back from what we know. But I do think in spirit it will be Blackbeard or Buggy. There is a theory that Buggy is Rox's son. So in a way, it could be Buggy, it could be Blackbeard. Meanwhile, we have Harold, who is running around, because remember, he infiltrated the place at the same time. How he got in, I have no clue, but he does get found, and all the things Rox did gets pinned on Harold, because he's a big target, right, literally as well. But he's on fire, and they call him the Kidnapper, which is Rox, but Rox and Harold run towards each other and meet. We then get an awesome double page spread, not full, but a double page spread of them clashing and what seems to be conquerors from both. Because you can see in one of the panels, both of them not really touching each other. Now that might be them being hurled in each opposite direction. In the other panels, it looks like they're still laughing, so it looks like they're still clashing. The blow is in a 5-kilometer radius, and Rox says to kind of target the side of the Pangea Castle so that they won't get caught. But they do help each other out. You see Rox on Harold's shoulder. Rox even says where Elbaf is to Harold. This is why Rox wants to see Harold in not the current time, because we're obviously still in a flashback, but currently in the flashback. Rox got a big ass bounty. We don't see the bounty, but the bounty picture looks a lot like someone else. It also says he destroyed the gates of justice. I don't know if you remember this, but they are huge. You remember this right here? They are massive. So he destroyed one of them, probably with his swordsmanship, because he can it's like a giant cannon or hammer, so it makes sense. But that is insane. Also, how did they rebuild it? But he then, from the Celestial Tribute, he takes the money and he creates his pirate group. Now, he would then start targeting pirates because there's a game called a Davy backfight, which we already know from when Foxy and Luffy did it together. There is a panel of rocks with some boxing gloves, and it looks a lot like Foxy and Luffy. And we then find out this is how he created his team. This is why they're so powerful and have so many people, have so many strong people on his group. They then move on to Elbaf. Before that, we get a kind of touching reunion between Loki and Harold. Loki is he's kind of weirded out, or he's kind of surprised that his dad really came back, because he's never felt this kind of love before, right? And he can't even believe it. He says it has to be a coincidence. It couldn't have come from me. So that is good for them. But we then see the Rockstars being in the same room, and it is a awesome double page spread of his then current crew. And we see Rocks, Stussy, Shiki, and Whitebeard. And then we have 3 new faces. We have Don Marlin, who is a gangster from the West Blue. This is probably someone related to Beige, because Beige is also from the West Blue. We then have the pirate prophet Ochoku, which is Wang Zi. He's also the one who takes over Pirate Island, where Rocks eventually does go to, and Blackbeard. And remember, to take this guy down, they needed Blackbeard during the time skip, so he's not post time skip strength, but Blackbeard, Kobe, and Lob, all 3 of them needed to take down Wang Zi or Choku. And he also looks a lot like Caribou. Obviously Caribou was a kind of a worst gen. He wasn't really, he's not in the worst gen, but he was one of those pirates who showed up at Tsubodi 2 years later, right? And then you also have Gonzui, which we've seen before, seen him in Thriller Bark. You also see him during the God Valley flashback, during the Kuma flashback, I'm pretty sure. And he's known as the Smuggler. And we also get some fun tidbits about the Pirate Island, the Beehive, where Blackbeard currently is. It originally was a place that the royal government sent criminals to. It had a massive gold deposit. And the smuggler Gonzui says that a shadowy organization helped them and got involved, and then they got a massive fortune. I think it's kind of interesting that this place was already called the Pirate Haven before. Maybe it has something to do with Joy Boy, because he was the first pirate, right? And it's literally a skull. So I don't know if it can get any more obvious. Now Rock says he will help the world government take down these criminals, but in reality he won't. He wants to really turn it into a pirate paradise, which we do know does happen later on. Even during the Kaido flashback, we see them on there, which is also the last day. And he then says he wants to be king of the world. That is pretty similar to another guy. And there's an awesome panel in Egghead. I don't know if you remember, but it is Van Augur and Katarina Devon saying to Saturn that they want the world, and that Blackbeard is after the world. Loki then sees this, and he kind of gets inspired, I think, by this, because we obviously know he does get inspired by Rocks, so this might be the first moment he truly feels that. Harold obviously continues to reject his proposal of joining him, but Rocks does say there is no such thing as a power that lasts forever. And that kind of reminded me of Kid's monologue during when he was fighting Big Mom. And we see Loki smiling and getting really excited by this. And in the background, obviously, Rocks proclaims again that he's gonna get the whole damn world. Then we go on 4 years after this, and Rocks has finally founded his crew, the Rocks Pirates. I mean, Rocks' crew is just insane. We get to know more and more people of his crew, and all of them have names and all of them are renowned. So, and all of them, or most of them, have history. Like even Wang Zi, we haven't really seen him up until this point, but we know he was a big deal. But I thought the chapter was awesome yet again. I mean, this flashback has been phenomenal, man. I think every chapter has something to talk about, and I'm definitely gonna make videos on this chapter. But what did you think? Comment down below, like, subscribe. There's a couple of videos in the description, my live reaction, the music, of course, all of that, right? Have a great day, have an awesome day, and bye.